Doctors couldn't stop screaming when they realized what this woman gave birth to. Nick and Brooklyn Smith, a loving couple residing in a small town in the United States, were in a phase of life filled with joy and anticipation. Both in their 30s, they had two beautiful daughters and were expecting a new addition to their family. They had named their unborn son Charlie, and their hearts were full of dreams and excitement for his arrival. From choosing the perfect crib to finding adorable little clothes, every shopping trip for baby items was a delightful adventure. They pictured family outings, bedtime stories, and how their daughters would embrace their new sibling. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of family. However, a routine ultrasound scan would drastically change their lives. The room, filled with the gentle humming of medical equipment, turned from a place of discovery and joy to one of fear and confusion as the doctor found an abnormality. Charlie was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, a condition characterized by an accumulation of fluid in the brain. The couple's joy turned to terror as they were told there was a 90% chance that their son would not survive birth, and if by some slim chance he did, he would likely face significant health challenges throughout his life. Brooklyn was immediately admitted to the hospital for close monitoring, her once bright eyes now filled with anxiety and despair. The hospital room became a place of waiting and worrying, filled with sterile smells and the constant reminder of their grim reality. Nick, on the other hand, found himself torn between his roles as a husband and a father. He divided his time between the hospital, where he provided unwavering support to Brooklyn, and their home, where he cared for their two older daughters. The girls were too young to understand the gravity of the situation, but they could sense the tension and fear in their father's eyes. Days turned into weeks, and the family's life was put on hold. The once joyful anticipation was replaced by dread, and the excited planning gave way to desperate prayers. Friends and family offered their support, but nothing could alleviate the looming uncertainty. Despite the odds, Nick and Brooklyn held on to hope, clinging to the belief that love and faith could see them through. They spoke to Charlie through Brooklyn's belly, telling him about the world that awaited him and how much they loved him. They encouraged each other, trying to find glimpses of hope in a situation that seemed devoid of it. The reality of hydrocephalus weighed heavily on their minds. They researched the condition, learning about the surgeries, therapies, and lifelong struggles that Charlie might face if he survived. They met with specialists and prepared themselves for every possible outcome, all the while knowing that their dreams for their son might never come true. In this period of great turmoil, Nick and Brooklyn's relationship was tested. They had to navigate not only their own feelings of fear and disappointment, but also the complexities of explaining the situation to their daughters and maintaining some semblance of normalcy in their lives. Through it all, they never lost sight of their love for Charlie and each other. Their once everyday but joyful life had turned into a daily struggle, but they faced it together, united by their hope, faith, and determination to give their son a chance at life. The days following the diagnosis were a blur for Nick, filled with a routine that oscillated between despair and determination. As Brooklyn remained in the hospital, he assumed the dual responsibility of caring for their older daughters and supporting his wife through the terrifying experience that had overtaken their lives. Each day, Nick would wake up and prepare breakfast for his daughters, trying to put on a brave face and maintain some semblance of normalcy. Their innocent questions about their mother and baby brother were met with gentle reassurances, though Nick's heart was heavy with uncertainty. After dropping them off at school, he would head to the hospital where Brooklyn awaited, her face pale and eyes filled with anxiety. The hospital visits were filled with long silences, punctuated by medical updates that offered little comfort. The doctors eventually stopped measuring the fluid in Charlie's head. It had exceeded all possible norms. This news, delivered with clinical detachment, sent shockwaves through Nick and Brooklyn, making the situation feel even more hopeless. Despite the darkening clouds, the Smith family clung to their faith, praying for a miracle and refusing to succumb to total despair. Friends and family members, aware of their struggle, offered support through calls, messages, and visits. Meals were dropped off and kind words were spoken, but the fear in Nick's heart was persistent and gnawing. Nick took to his Facebook page to share their story, pouring out his emotions in heartfelt posts. He described the medical situation with painful clarity, the love he felt for his unborn son, the terror that gripped him each night, and the unwavering support they received from their community. His words resonated with many, leading to an outpouring of encouragement and prayers from friends and even strangers. Back at home, the rooms that were once filled with joyful anticipation of Charlie's arrival were now steeped in a profound silence. Nick would often find himself standing in the nursery, staring at the crib that awaited a child whose future was so uncertain. The toys and clothes they had so lovingly chosen now seemed like mocking reminders of their shattered dreams. Yet amid the crushing weight of reality, there were moments of tenderness and connection. Nick and Brooklyn's relationship deepened as they supported each other, finding strength in their shared love and commitment. They spoke to each other about their fears and hopes, and Nick would often hold Brooklyn's hand as they both spoke to Charlie, promising him love and strength. As the weeks wore on, the routine became a way of life. Nick's travel back and forth between the hospital and home became a reflection of the dichotomy he was living, between hope and despair, between the role of a supportive husband and a loving father to his daughters. The resilience of the human spirit shone through in their continued faith, their ability to find joy in small moments, and their determination to face whatever lay ahead. Nick's Facebook post became a chronicle of a journey through fear, love, faith, and community support. It was a testament to the belief that even in the darkest of times, hope could find a way to flicker, refusing to be extinguished. The anticipation leading up to Charlie's birth was filled with a complex mixture of hope, fear, and uncertainty. For weeks, Nick and Brooklyn had lived in a constant state of apprehension, knowing the odds were heavily stacked against their unborn child. For every doctor's visit, every ultrasound had been a stark reminder of the dire situation. They had prepared themselves for the worst, yet clung to a fragile strand of faith. Finally, the day arrived. A sense of finality hung in the air as they entered the hospital, knowing that the time had come to face the unknown. The medical team was ready, and the atmosphere in the operating room was tense. Everyone knew the prognosis, and faces were drawn as they prepared for the cesarean section. Brooklyn was prepared for surgery, her face pale but determined, eyes searching Nick's for strength. Nick, holding her hand, tried to smile reassuringly, his heart pounding in his chest. Words of comfort were exchanged, but they were mere whispers against the storm of emotions that raged within them. As the procedure began, time seemed to stand still. The operating room was filled with the methodical sounds of medical instruments, the beeping monitors, and the hushed, focused voices of the surgical team. Nick stood by, feeling helpless and filled with dread, his eyes fixed on the medical staff working on his wife. Then a sound broke through the clinical silence, a loud, robust cry, Charlie's cry. Astonishment rippled through the room as the doctors discovered a completely healthy boy. The baby's brain had somehow rid itself of the fluid problem that had threatened his life. Stunned faces turned to smiles, and the tension that had filled the room evaporated into a sense of awe and wonder. For Nick, that cry was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard, a symphony of life and triumph. Tears welled in his eyes as he rushed to see his son, his heart swelling with joy and relief. Brooklyn's face, too, was awash with tears, her smile radiant as she held Charlie in her arms for the first time. They'd done it. They had overcome the insurmountable. The word miracle resonated with them more than ever before in their lives. This was not merely a term or a concept, it was their reality. In the days that followed, the joy was beyond words. Family and friends gathered, faces beaming with happiness and disbelief at the healthy baby boy who had defied all odds. Nick and Brooklyn's home was once again filled with laughter and love, the shadow of fear replaced by the bright light of hope. Nick would often find himself looking at Charlie, marveling at the tiny miracle in his arms, feeling a profound connection to something greater than himself. The baby's eyes, wide and curious, seemed to hold a wisdom and a promise. The story of Charlie's birth would be one told and retold, a testament to faith, love, and the inexplicable wonders of life. It was a reminder to all who knew it that miracles do happen, that hope should never be lost, and that the human spirit's capacity for resilience and joy is truly extraordinary. Nick Smith's journey through fear, uncertainty, and finally miraculous joy had been an extraordinary one. It had taken him to the very edge of despair, only to lead him to a place of profound wonder and gratitude. Though he had never been particularly religious, the inexplicable recovery of his son, Charlie, couldn't be viewed as anything but divine intervention in his eyes. The days after Charlie's birth were filled with a renewed sense of purpose and understanding for Nick. He found himself reflecting on the power of faith and hope, marveling at the way it had sustained them through their darkest hours. Friends and family who had prayed and supported them seemed to have tapped into a force that transcended mere words or gestures. Nick took to social media once again to express his gratitude. He thanked everyone who'd been a part of their journey, acknowledging not just the medical efforts but the spiritual ones as well. He spoke about the miracle they had witnessed, the miracle of Charlie's life, and how it had transformed his understanding of faith. His expressions resonated with many who learned about their story. Messages poured in, some from people who had been touched by similar experiences, others who were simply moved by their story. Nick's words seemed to restore faith in miracles for many, becoming a beacon of hope for those facing their own trials and challenges. The Smith family's home was filled with a newfound joy and contentment. Charlie's laughter became the soundtrack of their lives, a constant reminder of the blessing they had received. Nick's relationship with Brooklyn deepened, their shared experiences forging a bond that was unbreakable. Nick would often watch Charlie as he grew, his heart filled with an undescribable love and sense of responsibility. He pledged to let Charlie grow up healthy, to provide him with all the care, love, and opportunities he could. The joy that Charlie brought into their lives was something he cherished every day, knowing how close they had come to losing it all. The story of Charlie's miraculous recovery became a source of inspiration within their community as well. It was shared and discussed not just as a medical wonder but as a spiritual one. It prompted conversations about faith, hope, and the potential for miracles in everyday life. It made people pause and reflect on their own beliefs and the power of collective goodwill. Nick became an inadvertent advocate for belief in miracles, encouraging others to keep faith in the face of adversity. His words were not preachy but grounded in the reality of their experience, an experience that had taught him that sometimes the inexplicable happens, that sometimes faith is rewarded in ways that defy logic. The Smith family's incredible journey ended not just with the blessing of a healthy baby boy, but with a transformed perspective on life itself. They had faced the unthinkable and had come through it with grace, strength, and an unshakable belief in the goodness of life. Their story was a testament to the human spirit, to the power of love, faith, and community. It was a story that reminded everyone who heard it that miracles do happen, that hope should be nurtured, and that life, with all its ups and downs, is a precious gift to be cherished.